Mega Froslass. In my opinion, it is really strong, probably one of the strongest in the format, but pro players don't seem to agree with me. The issue for Froslass isn't its stats, it isn't its moves, it isn't its abilities. All of those are actually pretty great. The problem is matchups. Froslass has tons of bad matchups. Charizard, Kingambit, Basculegion, Aerodactyl. These are all Pokemon that can make Froslass have a pretty bad day, and this list is by no means comprehensive. So, if you're gonna play Froslass, then the question becomes, how do you clear the big threats to make Froslass able to sweep? Or, how do you use Froslass to enable another sweeper? These are the questions that are the guiding principle behind the team that I'm about to build. This team has two broad win conditions. 1. KO everything that beats Froslass so that it can sweep. Or 2. Set up a Kingambit so that it can sweep with Kowtow Cleave and Sucker Punch. Now, to help us understand our win conditions a little bit more, let's talk about Froslass and Kingambit's training. Froslass is built to be moderately bulky, with enough offensive investment to get the extra stat point. This level of bulk lets Froslass take a Black Glass's Sucker Punch from Kingambit while in the snow. After setting an Aurora Veil, Froslass can take a Black Glass's Kowtow Cleave from Kingambit. In terms of speed, Froslass has a 157 speed stat. This allows Froslass to beat all Pokemon with base 90 speed or lower. An example of this is Hisuian Arcanine, who has a max speed stat of 156, so it can never move before Froslass without a speed boost. The remaining stat points went to Special Defense, since I didn't need them anywhere else, and the bulk is generally useful. Now, for Kingambit, I'm running a pretty standard Sword Stance set. Lots of HP and attack investment is used to get the most power and bulk possible. And with the Black Glasses, I'm able to use Kingambit for devastating damage even if I haven't set up a Sword Stance yet. For moves, I've got Protect, Sword Stance, Kowtow Cleave, and Sucker Punch. These moves are the best on a Sword Stance Kingambit. Now, not running Iron Head means that Kingambit is never really happy to see Pokemon like Floette. But after a Sword Stance, Kingambit can still do crazy damage. Now, for our first win condition to work, we have to KO Pokemon like Kingambit that Froslass can't damage quickly, since the conditions don't really matter if you can't break through the opposition. The same principle is applied to our second win condition, since Pokemon like Garchomp and Charizard can do massive damage to Kingambit. So, if Kingambit gets KO'd, then the boosts just don't mean anything. Now, with two sweeping options that need to respect Charizard, I can add Glimmora, a Pokemon that hard walls Charizard, KOing it in one turn with Power Gem. On top of this, Glimmora is also really good for managing Fairy-type Pokemon like Floette, which is another matchup that I'm not particularly happy to see with this team. In a lot of ways, Glimmora holds this team together, allowing me to beat teams that should have much more positive matchups. With the Focus Sash, I can keep the stats simple: max speed and max special attack, and I'll use a speed boosting nature to outspeed as many Charizard as possible. Spiky Shield, Power Gem, and Sludge Bomb are all givens, since they are Glimmora's best moves. For the last move, I'm going to use Earth Power to give Glimmora a fighting chance against Pokemon like Archaludon, but it also gives me another way to get rid of Kingambit quickly. And after this, the rest of the team comes pretty easy. I've got Garchomp, Incineroar, and Whimsicott. Garchomp is a bulky offensive piece that can take a hit from an opposing Garchomp and then KO it thanks to the Dragon Fang. And thanks to Rock Slide, my Garchomp can also beat Charizard, giving me another out against the #1 Mega Evolution. In terms of speed, my Garchomp has enough speed to beat modest Archaludon and other Pokemon in a similar speed tier. This allows me to be bulky while still being strong in Tailwind. Next, Incineroar gives me Fake Out and Parting Shot support, which are great tools for setting up Froslass and Kingambit positions. And with a more offensive build than normal, my Incineroar can safely KO Kingambit in 2 turns max. To afford all this power, I have to give up substantial bulk, so with my remaining points, I'll ensure that Incineroar has the bulk to safely pivot into Garchomp multiple times. And lastly, Whimsicott is here for Tailwind and Encore. Being able to shut down a Pokemon that could beat one of my sweepers with Encore can be a game-ending play, and I can use Tailwind to help the rest of my team move first. More importantly, it means that I won't get rolled by opposing Tailwind teams, since I can actually match the speed control. Since my Whimsicott is holding the Fairy Feather, I can afford to put most of my points into bulk, allowing Whimsicott to stay on the field, using Moonblast even more. So, now that you understand the team, let's jump on the ladder and see what this team can do. Hello, hello, hello. I am recording this at the last possible second. Hope you liked that intro as well, because that took a lot of work to do. This is certainly not the matchup I'd like to start the day with. Gengar can be really scary into Froslass. You need the V.E.I.L to survive things like Shadow Ball pretty consistently. But also you have to then say, well, how do you beat the Archaludon with the Rain Dance and the Drizzle support? It's a matchup where you need to find good ways of denying the support whilst not taking too much damage, and that's the ultimate challenge. It really doesn't help that this has Floette instead of Froslass, which is the normal Pokemon on this team. It also doesn't help that they have Pelipper instead of Politoed, since that flying type stab does look really nice here. Realistically, I probably just want to focus on getting good damage. Maybe, actually, I think I want to focus on setting up Kingambit. My idea is that after a Swords Dance, I can probably put a big enough hole that Froslass can clean up. I'll go Glimmora as the final. It's not my favorite pick here, but also they don't have a ton of fast Pokemon that can also beat Glimmora. So if I can punch that big enough hole into the Archaludon, then I'm looking pretty good. One option is to Fake Out here. I'm not sure if I love that because you have to give this the stamina boost. I do like Swords Dance. That's my default here. I'd love to Parting Shot. I wonder what the play is after that though. Because I Parting Shot as they set up the Rain Dance and Electro Shot. I then bring in Froslass ? And then you kind of just have to gamble on hitting your Blizzard in the rain, which is not my favorite. I don't know that Glimmora can KO even with a Swords Dance boosted Kowtow. You know what? Actually, I think I can get away with this. It does punish like that. It punishes that, which is a big deal. They play defensively, and now I can preserve HP when I go for position. So I'm not too upset about that. Maybe they were trying to catch a... Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to catch actually with that Protect. Since even just clicking Dragon Pulse into Incineroar regresses the position in a way that's pretty useful. Oh, actually, it could be going to catch the Low Kick. I don't have Low Kick, but that maybe is what they're trying to cover for. The question is, I intended to Swords Dance and Parting Shot. Do I ever double down on that and just Swords Dance again? Try and get that Archaludon to a point where it can't afford to take a hit ever? I think the answer is no. I think the answer is no. Keep Control, because I do want to cover for Aura Sphere. Like, getting hit with Aura Sphere here is like probably just an instant loss. Rain Dance, so they probably are going Electro Shot the Incineroar, so I could have just Kowtow cleaved. As it turns out, I mean, in an ideal world, they go for the Kingambit and I save some HP, but I think that is very unlikely. Special attack boost into the Kingambit, nice. Because that kind of makes it a very nothing burger turn where they do set the rain, which is good for them, but also I don't really care. I don't really care. So I'll bring in the Glimmora. What I can do now is I can Sucker Punch Earth Power to get the maximum damage, because I don't think Kowtow does more than Sucker Punch if you're getting a stamina boost off of Earth Power. That's my basic theory. The real question is, do they want to like burn Glimmora and then like Steel Move it? I actually don't think it would matter either way, because if I protect Glimmora trying to cover for a play like that, then I lose to Encore, so I'm better off just playing it straightforward. Sucker Punch, tons of damage. If I remove the Archaludon, it suddenly looks a lot better for me, because that's their main damage dealer. If I remove it, that could very well spell the end of this game. Good news is that Glimmora should move first. It's 151 speed if I'm not mistaken. Sucker Punch moves first. It's not as much damage as I would like to see on the Sucker Punch. Oh yeah, no, that's a bit of an oopsie from me, because I don't know that another Sucker Punch will KO, but I know that another Earth Power definitely won't. Oh, never mind, did I crit? What was that? That was tons of damage. Holy! Well, that's really interesting, because that Archaludon's at so much threat now, I can always Sucker Punch it. There's nothing you can do. I can preserve my Sash on Glimmora. Never mind, I attack Glimmora. I mean, they're never going to survive a Sucker Punch. That's just not in the cards. The first one did, what, 40%? So what they protect here, I switch to Incineroar. I can probably Fake Out Sucker Punch, maybe Fake Out Kowtow to cover my bases a little bit better. I think I'm getting Archaludon here. I think that's the most likely outcome. They switched Sableye, that's interesting. To Sinistcha. I didn't think this all the way through. Because yeah, now they have the longevity to just attack. Or they can protect, and that's actually a pretty good play from them as well. Really what I want is to remove this Sinistcha so that I can attack more freely. The reality is, if I can get Glimmora to the field safely with Sinistcha KO'd, then I'm actually looking pretty good. And I can afford to spend my resources a little bit more aggressively to achieve that, because I'm going to rely on Earth Power to take the final KO. Since that ended up, doing a ton of damage. So my question is, if I can get the Glimmora back to the field, then is there a lot that they can do about that? I think the answer is no. We do see the Sinistcha protect, so I've probably made a mistake here. Because yeah, 1% is not good. I could have Swords Dance, that would have been really nice. Because then I can actually use Kingambit to threaten our Caledon again in a pretty significant way. I mean, surely they're redirecting, right? The Reflect wears off, they're gonna redirect, let's be so real. What I want is to... In an ideal world, I'd love to see Sinistcha attack so I could Sucker Punch it and then Parting Shot, but I don't think that's in the cards. Well, I can slow pivot to get Glimmora back to the field. That's the key detail, since it looks like all of their offense is being spent on making our Caledon do most of the work. Maybe they switch Sinistcha to get another bout of healing and then I can't KO it quickly. That seems like a pretty safe play. But if they do it wrong, then I'll pivot cycle to get a Swords Dance with Fake Out Pressure. And then suddenly I'm kind of back in the driver's seat. Also, losing Sableye here could be a big deal. I did target our Caledon with Parting Shot, right? I definitely intended to. Special attack boost. That puts it at +2 now, isn't it? Well, it's not enough to KO Kingambit. That's the key detail. Parting Shot hits the Caledon. That's really good because we're just managing the overall threat here. I don't really want to bring in Froslass until I've KO'd Sableye just to play it safe, since Froslass is my other win condition for our Caledon, since that Blizzard's going to do a lot of damage eventually. I do one-shot the Sableye though. If I'd known I was going to one-shot, then I would have just brought Froslass in and that would have spelled the end of the game pretty much instantly. At this point, I need to be a bit more considerate of how I play this. Kingambit doesn't have a lot of HP. Actually, no. I can worry about Kingambit's HP, but it's already punched a big hole into this team that I can abuse with Froslass. What I want to do is I probably want to Sucker Punch our Caledon, maybe? No, I don't think you ever Sucker Punch our Caledon here. Oh, actually, you know, now that they've brought... This is interesting, because they brought in Pokemon that I wasn't expecting them to bring in. I want to Kowtow, but I don't think that's the right play. Because I imagine what they're going to do is they're probably going to try to set up a Tailwind, realistically. Which is really bad for me. Oh, Wide Guard's also another problem that I need to sort out pretty quick here. In an ideal world, I'd find a clean KO on Pelipper. I think the cleanest way to get there is just to double it. I imagine this won't work, but if I get the KO here, then Blizzard plus Earth Power should steal the game for me. They don't let me Sucker Punch. That's annoying. I do still win if they're not Sash. I mean, they're not Sash, but I don't KO, so it doesn't really matter. That is, like, massively bulky. So they get to set the Tailwind, which is interesting. Yeah, I probably should have just Sucker Punch Earth Powered the our Caledon here. I don't think getting damage on the light screen wears off though. Either way, I don't think the damage on Pelipper is going to add up in the way that matters very much here, since I don't really have a good way of playing this, do I? Yeah, you're looking at +1 special attack. I might survive a Flash Cannon. It's not necessarily clear. What is clear is that if I can KO the our Caledon, then I probably do have a pretty safe win. Since Pelipper won't have the resources to beat Incin, neither will Sinistcha. I think my best way to play it is to stall. Not to Mega Evolve instantly, but just to take this one turn and do and do nothing with it. Yes, Archaludon gets its recovery with leftovers, but stalling out that one position does make a big difference. That's a big deal. I really messed up. I think that's game there. If they Electro Shot, it's definitely over. Because, yeah, I really should never have played so passive in front of... Okay, they Flash Cannon. That's something. Yeah, it's something. I want to Sucker Punch, but I don't think I can afford to. I don't think I can afford to Aurora Veil either. What do I do now? I've played so defensively. I think my best play is to make a hard read. Say, you're not going to attack King Gambit. I'll pivot to Incineroar and just try to get a position where I can use Froslass in a 1v1, since that also should still beat Archaludon. Oh my god. Got the read wrong, so... Show me Flash Cannon. Nope, they Dragon Pulse. That's GG's. Yeah, well played. Well, it's not over, is it? Because Archaludon has no reason not to attack. Let's start there. Froslass to the field. I definitely Mega Evolve now. Because I really have no choice but to just Mega Evolve. Right? I could try to wait one turn and go for Blizzard a little bit safer, but I suspect that Sinistcha has Trick Room, and I certainly don't want to lose to Trick Room at the last second. I think that would be a devastating way to lose, is to get this close to a win, and then lose because I had no way of stopping Trick Room. It's like I still have a fighting chance, it's just really bad. Snow Warning. Fake Out to block Archaludon's move, whatever it is, it's not going to get to use it. Critical Hit is really nice. Probably not impactful, but I do like it. Archaludon did just attack. They Life Dew. I'm not really sure what that does here, to be honest. Because you're Life Dewing before I attack, so you're not actually getting much out of that Life Dew. Archaludon goes down in 2. Except it doesn't go down in 2 because you have to deal with leftovers. Okay. Realistically, they're sending in Pelipper pretty quick here. What I want to do is I want to try and punish that. I don't think there's a lot of ways for me to punish that, though, to be honest. I guess my question is, could I muscle through if I got some calls right? Like, if I went Protect, Parting Shot, Archaludon as they switch? No, I don't think that works. I think I need to click Blizzard and force them to play defensively, and then just hope that I have the resources to beat Pelipper. I have the wrong move on Incineroar here, which is unfortunate, because if I had Darkest Lariat, then I could actually hope to get rid of this Archaludon with Blizzard, where I am kind of just running the risk of missing, which I don't, which is great. I need a freeze at this point. I need something to go my way. Nope. Flash Cannon comes through. Does it KO? Yeah, it does. That is game. If I had Darkest Lariat, then I might have been able to push through with a little bit of luck. Yeah, Darkest Lariat would have KO'd. That's a shame. That is a shame. I mean, that's what I get for running the wrong moves. I'm not playing this out. I don't want to waste their time. Really well played from them. It's a tough matchup, and they played it perfectly, honestly. Like, I don't know what more I could have done there. Like, I definitely made some mistakes, but at the same time, it didn't feel like I made any big game-changing mistakes, if that makes sense. Like, I look back on it, and maybe just bringing Froslass out earlier would have made a bigger difference, because they needed to bring Pelipper in to set the rain, so I might have been able to pressure a bit more damage and save my Glamora to a bit later, which could have been really useful. So, that's one thing. I also didn't knock out that Sinistcha nearly fast enough. Like, if I'd gotten rid of it at the first opportunity to, then I would have been in a much better spot, because Sinistcha ended up giving the Archaludon, what, 50% more HP than it did before? Is that the same team? No, it's not. It's slightly different. It's the standard version. I mean, Redemption? Question mark? I actually liked my plan, and I didn't dislike my execution of the plan either. Like, my ability to pressure some damage and catch some mistakes with the Swords Dance seems like a really good way to start the game out. Now that I know that Glimora likely 2-shots even behind Light Screen, that definitely changes how I want to play this, since getting 2 chances to attack or finding a chance to catch the Sinister switch in will be massive for me. Archaludon Froslass, not what I expected the least to be. Probably leads that favor me, honestly. Because I'd imagine the Archaludon doesn't have a good way of damaging me. It's probably Electro Shot, Flash Cannon, Dragon Pulse with Protect. Sort of like the same set we saw last time. In which case, Swords Dance and Parting Shot off of either is not super risky. If I want to make a call, then I could. And like go Darkest Lariat the Froslass. That's not a terrible... Oh, I don't have Darkest Lariat, right? I meant to have Darkest Lariat, but I don't have that. I should just change it at some point. I'll Parting Shot the Archaludon. I don't really fear Froslass here. Also, if they send in Politoed, then I can just Parting Shot off of the Archaludon. Yeah, they do give the Electro Shot, probably into King Gambit, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know what else you're going to be targeting here. I'd love to see it on Incineroar. That would be way better for me. Is that on Incineroar? No, it's on King Gambit. 50%! That's just robbed from me. But I do get to limit the raw attacking power that Archaludon has. Because of the matchup differences, like Politoed's not nearly as scary as Pelipper here. I can afford to just send Froslass and go full send on Sucker Punch Blizzard, since that should KO. And it's not as if Politoed's really threatening a lot here. One option would be to call it to say Archaludon protects, and to go like Swords Dance Aurora Veil, but I think that's a step above Insanity, since if I get that play wrong, it's definitely over. Is there a middle ground play that allows me to cover everything? I don't think there is, because I have the setups already done. I think I do just want to Sucker Punch Blizzard. I don't think there's really a good middle ground here. What I need to do is I need to call an Archaludon Protect when they want to bring Politoed in next time, and go for something like Shadow Ball, Kowtow on the Politoed switch, and that would give me a good position. Politoed doesn't switch, which is interesting, because Ice Weather Ball is not going to do much. Muddy Water does actually just risk the accuracy drop, which should actually be more negative for them. Without the Reflect, Archaludon takes tons of damage from Sucker Punch. Blizzard does move next. That's Archaludon. That was the biggest problem the last time we saw this team. And it's gone on turn 2? Like, you couldn't have asked for a better... oh, geez. And they missed the Hypnosis. Holy moly. For the record, that's why I don't click Hypnosis ever. I've seen Hypnosis miss in some of the most ridiculous circumstances. I was watching NAIC this weekend, and I saw +1 accuracy Hypnosis miss, and I'm like, well, what's the point of clicking it at that point? It just misses every time. Yeah, now that I've shown Sucker Punch as my primary play, I'd love to just switch out Incineroar. So I switch out to Incineroar and Kowtow Cleave, since that covers like the hard rate of Aurora Veil Hypnosis. It doesn't cover Hypnosis into King Gambit, but I don't think King Gambit's my main win con anymore, so I'm not too concerned about that. Because I feel like you'd have to shut down my Froslass, otherwise you're just going to lose no matter what. They go for the Veil, so they probably were trying to catch that Sucker Punch. It's not going to be enough. They need to be supremely bulky, otherwise they're going down here. They miss another Hypnosis onto the right target as well. So that could have been a very disastrous turn if I went all in on Sucker Punch there. Thankfully I didn't. Catching that Froslass for free is pretty good. Yeah, you know what? After 2 Hypnosis misses, it's really hard to win, right? That's part of the reason, again, that's why I don't click Hypnosis ever. I never use it, I never want to click it, because missing a crucial Hypnosis, maybe missing 2 crucial Hypnosises, is the way that you lose so easily, right? That's what I think of Hypnosis. I think it's a terrible move. If you can't guarantee that it's going to hit, it probably isn't worth clicking, since, especially now that Sleep is weaker, you're not getting nearly as much out of those gambles. Ooh-wee, that's a Charizard. That's Charizard Venusaur. That's interesting. Because I feel like there's a lot of times where they want to lead like Charizard Venusaur here. And in those positions, I could totally afford to lead Glamora Froslass and just say, well, you can't really do much into my team, can you? I guess the big thing that I want to cover for is Rotom, since that is a scary Pokemon, generally speaking. Something like Incin plus plus Garchomp in the back looks pretty nice to me. I'm trying to think, if your main win condition's Charizard, how do you want to execute to win? Because, like, one option, I think maybe I shouldn't be leading 2 offensive pieces. I think having Froslass and Incineroar, I need to set this up properly. Froslass Incineroar with Glamora Garchomp in the back also looks really good, because if they lead if they lead Charizard, there we go, then you can always parting shot the Charizard and do some repositioning shenanigans to enable safer positions with Froslass and Glamora, which is kind of the main win con right now. You want that Blizzard Power Jam or that Blizzard Sludge Bomb threat so that you can't switch, you can't protect, you can't do anything. That's the ultimate goal. In theory, to that win con, not Charizard, Whimsicott looks really good for me as well. But I feel like I can probably get away with not bringing my own Whimsicott here. Because, like, yeah, if I have Whimsicott here, then one thing that I can do is I should probably just hard switch Froslass, to be honest. But yeah, if I had Whimsicott here, I could have gone for the slow Encore into the opposing Whimsicott, which is nice. But then you lose Whimsicott, and then you have to, like, fight for the position, and that seems like a bit of a risk. I do like switch to Garchomp, parting shot the Charizard, since they don't have a lot of offensive pressure. If I switch to Garchomp, they'd have to make a read and get it right, and I don't think this is the turn where you want to be making a read. They do Mega Evolve Charizard, likely just going for the Heat Wave here. I'd love to see Heat Wave specifically. If we see Overheater Weather Ball, I'm going to be very sad, because that's going to do so much damage regardless. Show me Tailwind. Yeah. Tailwind and no Protect, I think that's the best case scenario. Heat Wave, nice. I would have loved to see a miss, but I don't need that here since I don't take that much damage, to be honest. Getting to parting shot that Charizard and bring Glamora in makes me very happy as well. Since Glamora looks actually so strong here, it's very likely that they're running Sash Whimsicott specifically. So my big play here is to switch to Incineroar and then figure out what I want to do with Glamora, right? Charizard is mostly threatened by the Rock-type attack. The reality is they don't have a good switch-in for a Rock-type attack, so I can always afford to just Power Gem that slot, and it's kind of free. With Incineroar in the field, they suddenly aren't looking so good because they'll have wasted their turn going Heat Wave Moonblast, presumably. And then I have Fake Out Pressure. Okay, so that's Scorching Sands. That's how they beat Glamora. So that, I assume that means they're doubling it for Glamora if they're going with all the effort. I'd love it if they didn't, but I think they probably are. Oh, they didn't! Nice! Because, yeah, that means I get Charizard at a relatively low cost, and I have some pressure onto that Whimsicott so I can break the Sash and then maybe reposition or just sack Glamora at this point since it's done its job. Froslass can already win the game, so I really want to be thinking about how I can progress this position as fast as possible because that's really what I want. Okay, so that's the Venusaur to the field. Really what I want to do here is I want to Flare Blitz that Whimsicott. With the Fake Out Pressure, ideally I want to capitalize on the fact that I have Fake Out Pressure. I don't think there's a lot of good ways for me to do that because I think Whimsicott has Protect and is clicking it. One option is just to force Whimsicott to Protect. I don't love that option, to be honest. You know what? I think Whimsicott's not protecting, so what I'll do is I'll just go for a little bit of damage onto the Venusaur. Sweet. They protect Venusaur, that probably means they're protecting both. They aren't. They attack Glamora. It could be Sash Venusaur, actually. That would be really big here. Because, yeah, I don't want to lose to Sash Glamora. Yeah, I did Sash Whimsicott. I got really hyped for a second there. I was like, oh wait, Sash Venusaur's kind of popular. Maybe I got a little bit too excited for something that hadn't really been confirmed yet. Tailwind right there. I don't mind bringing Froslass in here and then just hard switching Incineroar out. I keep saying the wrong names today. It's not been my best day in terms of saying names correctly. I don't love hard switch Incineroar here, to be honest. On the chance that Venusaur survives, I don't mind just clicking Parting Shot. Because really what I want to do is I want to apply offensive pressure right now. Since if I KO the Whimsicott for free, that'll result in me being in a position where I can rely more on Froslass to close the game out by just being strong and having a good spread move. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a spread move if I've done this right. But you get the idea. If I can get some KOs here, I'm suddenly looking in a lot stronger place, because I won't be able to Tailwind if I KO that Whimsicott. Moonblast does come through onto the Incineroar, so I could have... So I couldn't have just gone for the hard switch. Meaning I made the right call to not do something silly. We're seeing Solar Beam. Not the right move here at all, because there's no Power Herb to enable you to attack for free. Venusaur takes a massive hit. It's not a KO, but Solar Beam locks you down, so I can KO Venusaur for free on next turn. Garchomp hits the field. I don't think they have enough damage to break through in time, because Solar Beam's at 60 base power right now. That's a fun fact. It's weaker if it's not in the correct weather. Actually, a better way of saying that would be, it's weaker if it's in the wrong weather. I actually don't hate just clicking Rock Slide and protect the Froslass, since that is my main win con. I don't really want to give up 3 HP on it. This way I can kind of ensure that I get something no matter what. If they fake out, if Kangaskhan fakes out Garchomp, then I get the Rough Skin. But if they don't fake out, then I get to Rock Slide for free. Boom, Rock Slide. Both ways I get guaranteed value. The crit on the Venusaur seems a bit ridiculous. I don't know what good that's doing for me. At this point, I feel like the game's pretty comfortably over. I don't know what Kangaskhan's going to be doing here to stop Garchomp and Froslass at the same time. Maybe it's a Sucker Punch variant and it gets like a crit or something, but even then, you'd have to hope it's... Like, I don't know what that Kangaskhan's going to do. Like, if it's Last Respects, it can't win. I guess Sucker Punch and Last Respects would work. Not Last Respects, Last Resort would work. Really, like, Sucker Punch crit the Froslass and then Last Respects the Garchomp, maybe. Drain Punch! I don't think that changes the fact that you're going down this turn, but that's certainly a tech option that would be useful here. Surely Dragon Claw KOs, right? Yeah. What am I talking about? Of course that KOs. Whew. That's not so bad. I feel like that's a pretty good recovery. You know, we went from we're so cooked to we're so back, and I feel like we're very happy about that. Also, that's kind of the power of this team, where if you can trade something like Glimmora for Charizard, that ends up being a pretty ridiculous trade. It did help that they had no ground types. Third Archaludon not in a row, but third Archaludon today. Archaludon's not that popular, come on. More importantly, you got the pairing with Scizor and Incineroar, which is a really tough pairing. Since Scizor can really beat Froslass into the ground, so can Archaludon, so can Incineroar. So I really need to focus on getting rid of Pokemon like Scizor quickly. I actually don't hate how Incin and Glimmora look into this team, since if you do it right, you can punch a big hole into Archaludon, Scizor, Sneasler, basically everything. So I think maybe focusing on getting Glimmora and Incin well positioned is my best win con. Maybe I want Tailwind, but I don't know that I actually do. They don't have an Ice type attacker. You know what? I'll lead Garchomp. Okay, here's an outlandish plan. Garchomp, Kingambit with Incineroar in the back. I'll leave Glimmora behind for Froslass. I could lead Incineroar, Kingambit here, and that's not so bad either, but having Garchomp in the front does encourage them to bring in their Intimidate Pokemon. It also gives me fake out pressure on turn 2, which is really useful here. I don't love this position, to be honest. It's a position where Froslass can pop off, but I do have to get Froslass to the field without taking too much damage. Actually, that probably isn't so hard to do, actually. So I need to call the fake out, ideally. I don't think they're going to fake out. What I can do... No, I should protect Garchomp. Switch Kingambit to Froslass. And then switch to Incineroar and Blizzard. because then I get the damage on Whimsicott and Sneasler. It also helps that I'm encouraging an Encore here, close combat. So I could have gone for a Stomping Tantrum play to punish the Sneasler for not protecting. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing for me. Yeah, you know, now that I'm looking at this position, I feel like they have to double Garchomp to get anything good out of this turn. Oh, but they can Encore the Garchomp. That's the big problem. Switching to Incineroar then covers that inevitability, so I can Blizzard. And then when Whimsicott wants to, I don't know, set Sunny Day or something on the next turn, I can go Fake Out Blizzard again. That's a double knockout. Maybe that's a forced double protect where I can switch out Incineroar directly back to that Garchomp, get some Ruskin chip, and then pivot back to Incineroar to actually get Intimidate down. Since this one will be blocked by the White Herb, something like that sequence kind of makes a bit of sense, where you're just looking to spread damage and mitigate the damage that you're taking yourself. So we'll have to see what the opponent wants to do. Snow goes up, safe and sound. Sneasler protects. I like to see that. I really like to see that. Show me Encore. Yeah! So I get to attack for free, and the Sneasler's in a really tough spot now. Because I probably would have just switched out Incineroar on the double protect, but they just protected Sneasler, so suddenly it's kind of a, do I actually want to leave my Pokemon vulnerable now? Realistically, the answer is yes, I do want to leave my Pokemon vulnerable, because they're probably bringing in Arcaludon. There it is. With the Fake Out pressure, I think it's very, very much just an inevitability of them switching in the Politoed here. What I want to do is I actually want to just put tons of damage on that part of the field, since I don't think they're keeping Sneasler in, since they want to start boosting Arcaludon. They do switch. I guess I could have hard switched in Parting Shot, and that would have also covered that play more efficiently. But this way I get to damage the Politoed, which is really nice, because Politoed does tons of damage to my team. No, it doesn't, but it does do the... I'm losing my train of thought. I've got Sneasler and Politoed, like, merging together now. The important thing is that I get Politoed to -1, because as much as it is, my god, as much as it isn't the primary offensive threat, having it reduced in power does mean that I can bring in the Garchomp, and that lets me pressure the Arcaludon a lot more aggressively. Or the Politoed even, because I could just go, if I knock out Politoed, then Blizzard wins me the game, is one way to approach this. I actually don't hate that, because if I just get rid of Politoed right here, right now, it's kind of over. You lose your Fake Out pressure, I can weaken the Sneasler. That's interesting. I am trying to get Sneasler to the field sooner than later so I can pivot these two into a better spot, right? I think Froslass is the main win con. To that extent, I care more about getting rid of Arcaludon, since Arcaludon is the one that actually threatens Froslass. That did nothing. What the heck? I expected dramatically more damage than that. Not good, because double up onto either would result in me being in a bad spot. Electroshot. Yeah, I think that's the right play. I mean, at that point, it might be in range of Sucker Punch if I get the positioning right. And I also have to take a big Electroshot. Doesn't KO, though. Weather Ball into the Froslass will KO, though. Okay. Your boy might have made a mistake. Yeah. Arcaludon probably just wants to protect here, if I'm being honest. I kind of want to see if I can punish that protect, since a Swords Dance would make this game a lot easier to win. -1 Politoed. I don't have the weather anymore, which is a bit annoying. But again, I'm pressuring Arcaludon with a KO, so I can Swords Dance as they protect. In an ideal world, I'd Dragon Claw Politoed and take on no risk, but I think that might be too much of a read, where I'm not necessarily getting a lot of value. The other thing is that Sneasler is slowly but surely ending up in a position where it's going to be really threatening. Really, really threatening. Arcaludon does protect. If I had Dragon Clawed, I would have been in a crazy position. And at this point, I'm also thinking maybe I'm not in range of the... I don't think that Arcaludon's going down to a Stomping Tantrum anymore. without a bit of help? Well, here's my thought. I can just double the Archaludon. If I get lucky and it is in range, then Sucker Punch or Stomping Tantrum results in a winning position. They switch. Does that mean they're just close combating? Because that would be really bad for me. Yeah, they are just close combating. Jeez. That's the second time that they've just made a really hyper-aggressive play that they probably didn't need to. I mean, here's my thought. Politoed takes a big hit. Right? Yeah, Politoed takes massive damage there. It's not got a berry, so I can afford to go for like Rock Slide or something and just go fake out the Sneasler. What I want is to get a double knockout here. I don't think that's in the cards though. What I could do is I could Stomping Tantrum, Sneasler, fake out Politoed. And I'm pretty sure that covers every single play. Since, oh well, it doesn't, you know, it should cover every play because they want to switch Sneasler out specifically. They don't switch the Sneasler. That's interesting. Crit fake out again. My lord, this Incineroar, he's good. I do take the close combat. I don't think they're going to be taking that Stomping Tantrum even. Oh, that's annoying. That's really annoying. I don't know that it matters, but it's certainly annoying. Stomping Tantrum onto the Sneasler. They've been playing so aggressive. Wait, what? Oh my god, it's Sash. I thought it was Wide Herb for some reason. I don't know what made me think it was Wide Herb, but yeah. This has suddenly gotten a little bit intense, right? I really don't think I can afford to do anything but Rock Slide and then Throat Chop into Sneasler. Just cover every play. Really what I want is for Politoed not to switch. Because if I get the KO with Rock Slide, then I'm in good shape. Yeah, no, I need to get the double knockout here, otherwise I think I lose. I missed one of them. Politoed, that's fine. I think I can, you know what, I think I can make Politoed work. I don't know what moves the Politoed has, but I think I can make it work. So it's probably Hypnosis. Paris Song! That's interesting. Because I only need 2 attacks to KO. Which is the problem, actually, because they have to be vulnerable for how many turns? They only have to be vulnerable for 1 turn, right? So I think I have a guaranteed loss now. I mean, the real problem is KOing Archaludon, so if I can get a position where they make a mistake, then that works. Missing the Politoed probably is spelling out doom for me, though. They do protect Archaludon, they probably protect Politoed. You know, I actually think I have a decent win con here. So if I'd taken out the Politoed, I would have had a really good chance to win. This isn't so bad, because it'll be 2 turns when I KO Archaludon, right? Yeah, no, I've messed up. If Politoed doesn't have Protect, I can still win by KOing Archaludon right here, right now. That's so unfortunate, because I actually had a really safe win con if I KO'd that Politoed on either of these turns. Now that, they hit the double, that's game. That is so unfortunate. For the 3rd turn in a row, they left it vulnerable as well. That's crazy to me. So if I attacked Politoed 1 of 3 times, or hit Politoed on that Rock Slide, then I would have won. That's really annoying. Because I don't really know that there's a lot I can do to cover that. I'm playing one more. That's left as a really bitter taste in my mouth. I want to play one more. Because I'm likely not going to play this season much more after this. I think this will probably be my final result. Maybe I'll play a little bit more, I'm not sure. I don't hate having 2 spread attackers, but I don't have 2 good spread attackers right now. Yeah, well, I do have 2 spread attackers. I just don't think either of them are good right now. What I want is to cover a Kingambit lead and a Floette lead, and I don't think that's something that I can do easily or efficiently. Realistically, we're looking at like Kingambit and Basculegion or Mousehold Floette. Is there any overlap in the Pokemon that work in those leads? I think Kingambit works decently here, because if they try to lead Fake Out Pressure, I can do that. The issue is that if they lead Mouse Hold, then King Gambit is basically useless, because you Swords Dance, they Super Fang, and then you get KO'd, right? I think I'll lead Whimsicott with Froslass. Then I'll have Garchomp in the back with King Gambit to reposition. It's not my best plan, but it's definitely one of my plans. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest. I feel like this one's pretty hopeless. There's the Legion King Gambit. So I could afford to just reposition around the Garchomp now. Protect, switch to Garchomp's probably what I'm doing here, because I don't really want to risk the HP on either Pokemon right now. The end goal is to get rid of King Gambit and then have Tailwind with Froslass to KO the Basket Legion. That's my big plan. If I really wanted to, I could go Tailwind Shadow Ball, but I think that's such a risky play that they're probably going to cover pretty simply. Switch out Basket Legion, that works. Mouse Hold, not good. I desperately want to see Iron Head into the Floette. I don't think there's any other play that... Oh, jeez. That's not good. I don't want to say it's game on turn 1, but... Yeah, I have no clue how I'm going to win off the back of that. My default is get rid of Mouse Hold, and then see if I can muscle through with, like, King Gambit or something. Like, get a Tailwind, Swords Dance, Kowtow, Sucker, is sort of what I'm thinking. But I need to get rid of Mouse Hold for any of my Pokemon to be effective. In an ideal world, we're seeing, like, Sucker Punch follow me, because Sucker Punch doesn't KO Garchomp. No way. They Super Fang. That sucks. Dragon Claw doesn't KO. That's a shame. But I do get the double up, so I can get rid of Mouse Hold here, meaning that I can actually start trying to damage that King Gambit on the other side of the field. Kowtow onto Garchomp. I'm okay with that. Like, I don't like that I lost Garchomp. It's kind of my best answer to a lot of this guy's team. But this way I can bring my own King Gambit in and at least pretend like I have a chance. I don't hate Protect into Encore Swords Dance, Tailwind Swords Dance is sort of the sequence I'm going for. Because my goal is to one-shot that Floette with like Kowtow Cleave and then just like try to muscle through the King Gambit. I honestly, I can't see any other way to win. And the fact that that sequence feels like a totally believable way to win is very nice. I want to see Kowtow Cleave, Calm Mind, ideally. Or Swords Dance. Well, actually, I don't want to see Swords Dance. Show me Protect from the Floette, please. Uh-oh. Show me Calm Mind. That's also fine. Sucker Punch. Surely you Calm Mind. You really want to Calm Mind. Nope. That's probably game. I'll keep it a buck. That's probably game. I mean, I'd love to see them make a mistake, but I don't think they're going to make a mistake. What I want them to do is to protect Floette to cover Tailwind Iron Head. Obviously, I don't have Iron Head, so I can't punish the Floette here. But ideally, I'd love to see Protect, and then I can go Encore Swords Dance and then try to muscle through that King Gambit. That's kind of the win con I'm going for. No Protect. Not ideal. Do I move next? No, I don't even move next. That means they don't two-shot King Gambit, though. The question is, what did they do with their King Gambit? Kowtow into mine. That's a shame. Because now I have to Sucker Punch the Floette, no matter what. I mean, Moonblast plus Sucker Punch should do pretty good damage. One option that I have is to read Floette Protect and Kowtow my King Gambit. In which case, my best play is to Moonblast and Protect so that I can Encore the, That's a shame, I got it wrong. They do Sucker Punch. So if I doubled the Floette, I probably could have won. At this point, I really don't see how I'm supposed to win. That's good damage. Dazzling Gleam comes through. It doesn't feel ridiculous to try and win, but like I also just don't see how I'm going to do it. Because I need to KO that King Gambit this turn. without taking too much damage, and I don't think there's any combination of moves that prevents me from being in a bad spot on the next turn. Like, I definitely want to Mega Evolve here. The question basically is, what does Floette want to do? I think it just wants a Dazzling Gleam, to be honest. They've just clicked it every single turn that they've had. So I think I go Aurora Veil and then hope that I can catch a Floette Protect. Likely not going to happen, and then maybe Sucker Punch KOs. Because I do need to Sucker Punch specifically to cover Sucker Punch my own Kingambit. Again, I'd love to see a Floette Protect here, since that would give me a fighting chance against it, since I'd get the Roar Veil and the chance to Sucker Punch Blizzard it, which could be enough to KO. Show me Protect. Nope. That's probably game. I don't KO Kingambit, so that is probably game. They do Sucker Punch themselves. I'd love to see... I guess if they click Moonblast, it's also a fine turn. Not good, but fine. Like, I need them to damage Floette without... Not GG's. I think they crit Floette as well. Yeah, that's not Floette, that's Froslass. What a terrible game. They had me covered on every angle. That's horrible. I mean, it didn't help that I was getting a little bit unlucky and just getting a few turns wrong. But also, they took so many risks with that Floette, where if I had just attacked it once, they would have been in a really bad spot no matter what. So I was very surprised that they were just so willing to gamble being fast enough to gamble that I wouldn't attack them for 3 turns in a row. I was very surprised by that, because, yeah, at any point an Ironhead would have been devastating for them, so I was surprised they played so callously. This seems like a pretty good matchup, because Glamora comes through, it can Power Gem basically everything on this team. If it can't click Power Gem, it can click Sludge Bomb. The exception is Garchomp, but I have Froslass, so I really love the idea of having Froslass instant Glamora. The question is, what should the final Pokemon be? I think the final Pokemon probably should be Kingambit or the Whimsicott, because I don't think Garchomp looks that good here. Like, Rock Slide does nice damage, but, you know, you're not one-shotting Ninetales. You're not going to break through Primarina very quickly with Stomping Tantrum. All of those things are pretty bad for me. What I really want is to get a Swords Dance if I can. I think Kingambit Glamora is a pretty good lead. Oh, but if they lead Garchomp, then I really don't want these two in the front specifically. And I think there's a less than 0% chance that they lead both. I guess the other option is to go Gambit Froslass and to pressure both of their Mega Evolutions pretty intensely, because I can switch and reposition around Instant Glamora in the back. But, you know, if they lead something like Garchomp, then I can click Blizzard Swords Dance, and as long as I'm faster, I'm getting a lot of value out of that turn. Yeah, I wonder what their leads are. Yeah, Garchomp, Umbreon, that's an interesting lead. You have to respect the Yawn potential and the Earthquake potential. But I also don't hate just clicking Blizzard and just saying, hey, if you don't respect it, I'll blitz you with a Swords Dance. Because I feel like that Garchomp's going to be bulky. I'd love to just wipe Garchomp off the board, get a Swords Dance, and then suddenly Scoville and Delphox look really bad. Show me Blizzard, please. Stomping Tantrum, that's a shame. But I mean, I take that decently well. Blizzard does move next, so I'm getting Garchomp for this turn. And it's not even a bad chunk on Umbreon either. Freeze? A freeze on Umbreon could be massive here. Come on. Nope, they foul play the Froslass, okay. That's a lot of damage. It's a crit. That's why. That sucks. So that turn, it doesn't feel like it was a bad turn, but it definitely was the worst possible version of this turn. Because even taking a Yawn wouldn't have been that bad. But taking a crit foul play really does suck, because I'm not going to have the sheer output to break through Primarina quickly. I mean, one option that I have is to Aurora Veil Protect Kingambit, because then, you know, if I survive the turn, or if I get the Protect, then I'm looking really good. I like Veil Protect here. I want to catch a mistake if possible. But also, if I have both survive this turn, then I'm looking ridiculously good. Because I am relying on Glamora in the back to muscle through now. Foul play into Kingambit, not what I expected. Hyper Voice. I might live that, because Liquid Voice doesn't boost the power. I do survive! So, At this point, I have to be thinking about how I'm going to break through each Pokemon individually. I think I can break through Primarina relatively consistently? Question mark? Look, it's a two-way street. With the Aurora Veil, I think I'll survive a foul play. So I kind of just want to get as much damage on Primarina as I can. Since if I get a KO, then I'm looking really good. Damn. So, I probably was never getting a KO since it's a citrus variant. Then Moonblast. Okay, so I actually got a pretty good turn, all things considered, since I can pretty much guarantee that I'll KO that Primarina the moment I want to. The real question mark is Umbreon now. You could send Glimmora in here. That kind of forces Protect from Froslass. I think that might be the right play, actually. Is that they probably have to protect Primarina if they're gonna win with... If they're gonna win, I think they have to protect Primarina. So what I'll do is I'll call the Protect and go to poison that Umbreon with Sludge Bomb. Did you protect Primarina? Blizzard comes through. We're looking at, what, 30% on the Umbreon here. Ideally, we'll get more. 2 chances for a good stats effect here. We miss 1. Do we miss 2? Yes. Oh, there's Snarl. That's so annoying. Damn. I really thought I had a safe position as well. That's a shame. Because now looking at it that way, I probably don't have a great way to beat this team now. Into the field. With the reduced output, I don't think there's much chance of me breaking through any of these Pokemon quickly. One option is to Sludge Bomb Flare Blitz and to see if I can get a double knockout and then 1v1 whatever's in the back. I think that's actually a pretty good play, since I don't see how I'm going to win any other way. Like, if I play too passively, then I'm taking another Snarl, and then I probably can't beat what's in the back. Yeah. Maybe Fake Out was the right play. Yeah, I am slower. That was kind of the expected outcome, but also I think I just have to hope that Incin beats whatever's in the back now. Because I have no other win cons, right? I do get the Umbreon. To that extent, I made the right play, because if I don't get Umbreon there, it's a terrible turn. Because you have to take one more bloody Snarl. So, you know what? This could be a lot worse. Delphox is the final. I think I actually have a pretty good win con here now. I don't hate Parting Shot Delphox in just Power Gem. Obviously, it's a bit... I could have gotten Protected Glimmora. That would have been safer. Since getting the Parting Shot and Protect means that they have to spend so long getting through both of my Pokemon. And that gives me more turns to the Throat Chop. They do Psychic. But I suspect I don't have a good way to break Incineroar without, you know, landing at least 2 crits. So what I'm thinking is I can potentially extend that lead slightly to 3 crits by saying, well, if one of those attacks doesn't crit, then it's doing nothing. The Aurora Veil does wear off, so I probably should have just attacked. But also, -1 Delphox is kind of useless here. I don't see how they're going to break through in time. Like, I put the arbitrary X amount of crits are necessary, but look at that. That might have been a crit. No, it wasn't. Maybe I'm a little hopeful. I do just one-shot them, so... Yeah, I probably didn't need to get too fancy with the Parting Shot, but it was definitely the safer play to cover something random like a coverage move like Focus Blast, because if they have Focus Blast and they use them the last turn, then Power Gem takes the KO, probably, or it gets me close enough that I should win. Yeah, the big mistake there was not protecting Glimmora, since if I protect Glimmora, then Parting Shot has no downsides. And with that, we're kind of just saying goodbye to Regulation MA. Like, after watching North American International Championships, my big opinion on the format was, still is, stale. Stale is all balls. Charizard was the best Pokemon for every tournament, every week, every thing. You know, for the eight or so weeks we've been playing this format, maybe a little bit more than that, Charizard has been the top dog the whole time. We saw Charizard win the international this weekend, And that kind of just proves to me that we never found a way to stop it. Not consistently, at least, right? Because it kind of reminds me of one of those formats where you have like one ridiculous team and then a bunch of other good teams, where you can spend all this effort beating Charizard, but how do you beat like Politoed or Caledon? And that's sort of where the struggle comes from, because you can either beat Charizard or you can beat everything else. And that's sort of how you build your teams. So I don't think we ever found a good solution to Charizard that could fit on any team and enable you to have a diverse team that lets you beat everything else. It looked like Glimmora was going to be that solution, and that's certainly how I've used it personally. But I'm not sure that it works that well, because you now have those Basculegions, those Garchomps, those 4-attack Kingambits. Like, they're all menaces that just make Charizard so strong. So, opinion of the format, lock it in, very stale. I am definitely excited for Reg MB to switch things up. You have the Raichus coming, that'll be really nice. Zap Cannon looking really saucy, so that you can get rid of Pokemon like Charizard really quickly. So I'm hopeful for the next format. That's what I'll say. In terms of this team, now that I've played it a lot, like I've played it for like 2 or 3 hours each day. Like, I spent a long time trying to get this team to work, and I think it does work, because you look at the 6 Pokemon, it's just 6 pretty strong Pokemon. Nothing on this team is like off meta or so strange in context, which I like. It's a team that's just solid. It's 6 good Pokemon. But the other thing that I really like is that you have multiple win cons, and the ways that you progress those win cons are very complex and interwoven with the rest of the team. When I initially built the team, I built with Froslass and Kingambit being the 2 primary win conditions, where you go, I can remove these Pokemon and then Kingambit sweeps, or I can remove these Pokemon and then Froslass sweeps. But the more I play it, the more I find that you can have these situations where you go, I've removed the right Pokemon so Garchomp can sweep, or I've locked down the right Pokemon with Whimsicott so any of my Pokemon can be super effective. Even Glimmora kind of ended up in positions where you're like, yeah, Glimmora can kind of sweep the opponent if you do it right. And so those types of positions are really fun with this team, where you can just say, well, you have no answer because I just have tons of offense that you can't match. The defensive and the setup core is really nice, being able to use Aurora Veil and Fake Out Parting Shot and the Swords Dance. All of those things to really accentuate your lead is really nice. It's something that I personally associate with like the best Raging Bolt teams in like Regulation F, where you just like get this position where all of your defensive options are just so intense that suddenly your setup options become even more potent. Like, it just synergizes in this unique way where it all just makes the next thing better and better and better, and then suddenly you're sweeping, and suddenly you're Intimidate cycling a Gyarados as you set up to +6 with your Kingambit, or something to that effect. Maybe having another setup option on the team would have made it better, like Nasty Plot on Froslass maybe is more useful than Aurora Veil. I'm not sure. If that's the case, maybe Swords Dance over one of Garchomp's moves. Maybe you're running Habon or Roselia Berry with Swords Dance and No Protect. That's another option. Even Whimsicott kind of has like a setup element to it, where you could say maybe I don't need Protect, so I can use Fake Tears or Helping Hand. One of the big takeaways that I've gotten from playing this team is that having one way to boost my damage with all of my Pokemon would have been really nice. Because there were some times where we saw moves like Blizzard do great damage, but not enough damage. And those are the worst positions to be in, where you're like, I had the right play, but I just didn't have the power to capitalize. Which is unfortunate, because you never want to be that in those awkward positions where you can do something smart, but it still doesn't work because you just don't have the damage. So I think something like Helping Hand or Fake Tears or another setup option like Nasty Plot or Swords Dance on another Pokemon could have really given me that one more way to win, which would have been so nice. So that's my big takeaway from playing this a bunch, was maybe scaling my damage was more important than some of the defensive options from Aurora Veil and other tools. But let's get more to the nitty gritty here. Froslass in particular. Do I like the Pokemon? Yes, I love Froslass as a Mega Evolution. It's really good. Being able to Mega Evolve and Aurora Veil in the same turn is really nice. Being able to spam Blizzard, it's so good. We didn't see any freezes today, but the amount of times where I just clicked like Blizzard 3 or 4 times in a row, and then you're looking at a chance to freeze, that's That's devastating, right? The amount of times where you have to be like, ooh, I have to dodge freeze how many times to guarantee my win? Ooh, it's scary. It's a Pokemon that thrives on being able to attack freely. If you get to click Blizzard uninterrupted for 2 or 3 turns, that's really scary when each Pokemon can get frozen by that. So I really like Froslass to that extent. Shadow Ball, pretty consistent, you know. I don't really have any big feedback on Shadow Ball. It's a good move. I really liked it. I liked one-shotting Basculegion in a few of my practice games. That's been really fun. I also really like that Froslass has good stats. They're not like Charizard level craziness in the stat department, but you know, you have the Snow Boost to help patch up your defensive stats. You have the Aurora Veil to get that special defense and defense even more powerful. So you can end up running this Pokemon that outspeeds a bunch of important Pokemon while also taking hits and doing good damage. So Froslass becomes this super stable pick in most games if you aren't, you know, getting hit with a Sword Stance, getting hit with a Sunny Day Aerodactyl or something random like that would suddenly put you so far out of position where Froslass can't do anything. So I do like that. I like that it's only ever in a bad position when looking at tech options or sloppy mistakes, which are things that you can sort of control a little bit. Like you can oh my god. Like, you can control how well you play in any game, and you can also cover for tech options by removing scary Pokemon early, which is something that I tried to do with that Sinister in game 2 or 1. Didn't work out, but that logic ended up being true. Or correct, I should say. So overall, I think Froslass is like a solid A+ Pokemon. Like, I think it's really good if you can fit it onto the right team that has robust answers to scary Pokemon like Kingambit, like Charizard, like Basculegion, like Aerodactyl. They're all Pokemon that are really scary for Froslass. But if you can remove them, it's a big game changer. Incineroar. I'm not sure how good the offensive investment was here. Like, there were definitely times where I was taking more damage with Incineroar than I'd like. So it's totally believable that the better thing here is to have less attack. Though the flip side to that argument is, well, if you think about that Umbreon game, would Flare Blitz have KO'd a bulky Umbreon without that investment? I don't know. It's kind of a what's more useful type situation. Like, we ended up one-shotting that Delphox, and I don't know that was guaranteed. So you kind of look at it and say, well, maybe it is a little bit wasteful, but also it does work, so if nothing else, the theory behind it works. So moving forward, I'll probably be using more offensive Incineroars to get some more damage out of it, because, yeah, the times where Incineroar needs to do damage, it's really nice when it's doing great damage, not solid damage. There were a few times where I kind of missed Protect from my Parastrap teams. There were definitely games that I could have and could not have won if I'd had Protect. Like, if you think to the Delphox, I probably would have lost to Delphox with Flare Blitz. Or at least the odds of things going wrong certainly do skyrocket. Like, negative variants could have ruined that Delphox endgame if I don't have a Dark-type move. So, while I did miss the Protect a little bit, I also don't mind not having it, because in theory you don't really want to Protect Incineroar often, but when you do, it does make a big difference. So I would consider Protect with one attacking move, but that's kind of more of your best of one tech option, not really a good overall option. Outside of that, you're looking at a really consistent Pokemon in Incineroar, and there's not necessarily a lot to say about it, because it's just that, it's consistency. It's good basically everywhere. I mean, this one's going to be short and simple. Glimmora, S+ tier, I love it in the format right now. It does have its tough matchups, Basculegion, Garchomp, Kingambit, they're all somewhat threatening Pokemon into the Glimmora. But if you get a position where you're clicking, you know, Stomping Tantrum Earth Power into Kingambit, that's really good. Flare Blitz Earth Power is really good, stuff like that. Finding those turns where you can just remove a key threat to your team with Glimmora, that's what it really excels at, because you love to be able to get rid of Pokemon like Charizard, like Whimsicott, like Zarina, stuff like that can make your life a bit more difficult. And Glimmora excels at just removing one Pokemon and then maybe doing a little bit more damage, or at least forcing one more attack onto it while you do something else. Like, you one-shot the Charizard in game 3, I think it was, and Glamora survived. So they were forced to consider what Glamora could still do, even though it had already fulfilled its major job, which was to remove Charizard. And that's something that I really like about it, is because you go, every turn that's on the field, you have to think about what it's doing. It's not a Pokemon like, I don't know, Umbreon, I guess, is a solid example, where you can sort of ignore it a little bit and say it doesn't really matter what you do, because I'm just going to click moves that deal with the partner and then deal with you when you don't have the damage output to get through, you know, an Incineroar and a Froslass or a Glamora or something like that. So to that extent, I really like Glamora, because every turn that's on the field, again, you have to consider it. Nothing wants to take a free Power Gem. Nothing wants to take a free Sludge Bomb. So even if it's not the biggest threat, you do have to get rid of it so that it doesn't continuously click moves like Sludge Bomb to get poisons and stuff like that, because that mounting pressure does become a big deal. Earth Power, loved that as a coverage option. Good for dropping Pokemon like Archaludon. We saw that in like every game that we saw Archaludon, it was pretty good. So, good job, Glamora. Ooh, King Gambit. I love King Gambit. That's going to be a trend with this team. I loved everything on this team. I love being able to aggressively Swords Dance. It's so nice when you find a position with like Fake Out or Aurora Veil where they're encouraged to not give King Gambit as much focus, because you just go boom, Swords Dance. What are you going to do about it? The amount of times where I had like Incineroar or King Gambit, and you could be like Fake Out into the opposing Fake Out just to force a position where either they get nothing or I get something. And that's always really nice, because you can just be like, I'll Fake Out your Sneasler, and if you don't Fake Out Incineroar, then I'm getting a Swords Dance. Being able to aggressively use Fake Out Swords Dance, love it. Encore Swords Dance, Tailwind Swords Dance, stuff like that I really like. So, the Swords Dance option 1 is like, that is the big one. Like, the amount of times where you just click Swords Dance and that allows you to punch a hole into a team, or even just sweep them outright, it's massive, I love it. This stat spread and most others in the original stat spread are both really good. I've loved both of them. I've played a lot of games with both. That little bit of survivability you get on this set is really nice, because you get that above average bulk with a little bit of speed and relative power. And with Swords Dance, you can kind of afford to be a little bit weaker, since you're about to double your attack stat. Those 7 to 10 points lost isn't gonna matter much when you're going from 198 to like nearly 400. Like, that little cost is not actually significant when you have Swords Dance. So that's a nifty way of saying, I can use Swords Dance to make my Pokemon bulkier, since I'll have increased output. Double Dark type moves was definitely good. I don't think I'd change the moveset, but there were definitely times where having Iron Head would have been really massive, because you think to that Floette game, maybe I should have just been putting Iron Heads onto that Floette the whole time, I might have won. So there are definitely times where you think, is Iron Head better than Protector Swords Dance? And honestly, maybe it is better sometimes. But also, I've beaten Floette teams like the Mousehold Floette combination without Iron Head pretty easily at that as well. So I think it has more to do with how I play the matchups as opposed to the tools that I'm bringing, which is why I can say pretty confidently that I wouldn't add Iron Head to this set, because being able to double your attack is way more useful than one-shotting Floette. Whimsicott. This is one of the ones that I'm really proud of, because I kind of thought that intuitively this set wouldn't work very well, because you have Protect, not massively common. You have Encore and Tailwind and all that, all really common moves like Moonblast. But then you look at the stats and the item and you're like, that doesn't really make sense, does it, right? Tons of bulk and a Fairy Feather? I think intuitively looking at this set, you kind of go, it's a little weird. You have all the bulk and a Fairy Feather, where most sets are kind of running speed and power with the Fairy Feather. But I really like that you can just go, yes, Fairy Feather, that turns Moonblast into a legitimate threat. You know, maybe you're inclined to ignore that Whimsicott a little bit, but then it still does solid damage. And because you're running super bulky with no speed, you get to do things like Encore or Whimsicott when it goes for Tailwind. And that's a pretty safe play, because most Whimsicott are max speed, not 0 speed. So I definitely liked that interaction. We didn't get to see it today. Like, I could have brought it to the Charizard matchup, but it wasn't very good there. But it is really fun just to immediately lock down an opposing Whimsicott and then have like have Garchomp look really strong into that Charizard. And maybe that's a safer way to play out that game, so worth thinking about. Also just a really funny interaction. Outside of that, it's a pretty standard set. The again, being slow is really nice for a few reasons, but primarily it's just kind of a solid, stable set that provided support and good disruption. And because it's so bulky, if you're not KOing it, then you're getting an extra Moonblast, and that's really valuable. Or you're getting, one more turn to be a nuisance with Tailwind and Encore, so to that extent, it's a really annoying Pokemon, but it works, and I think it's really great. Garchomp. Honestly, I think Garchomp might be the weakest link for this team, but even then, I'm kind of talking about like a B- Pokemon in most games. Like, it's really good. The max attack Dragon Fang with a little bit of bulk is really nice because you do get to just like annihilate opposing Garchomps pretty consistently. One of the downsides is that if you run into Scale Shot, it's usually pretty terrible for the matchup, but I like the Garchomp set. Sometimes it feels a little inconsistent because it can be outsped by a few silly Pokemon like Archaludon, namely Archaludon's the big one actually. Like, that's the one where you're like, why is that moving first? Like, the high speed Archaludons are always a bit scary, and it certainly felt bad to think that Garchomp wasn't always going to move first in that matchup. Don't get me wrong, it's not really a big issue because you do move first like the overwhelming majority of the time, but the fact that you ever don't move first is so freaky. That's kind of like the big complaint. It also doesn't help that Garchomp isn't helping much in terms of fairy type problems, because if you look at the team, you've got neutral, resist, neutral, weak in terms of the fairy type matchup, and a well positioned Garchomp can really hurt a Floette, but it's not really a good solution to Floette or Sylveon for that matter. It's probably even worse to Sylveon. So you kind of look at that and you say, ooh, maybe it's not the best final Pokemon for the team. Definitely works, It gave us good win cons into Pokemon like Archaludon, which is really nice. Because even at like +1 defense, you're still doing, 30% to it. So as much as there are flaws and real reasons not to use Garchomp, the fact that you're able to do some pretty unique things is pretty useful. Because, like, how many Pokemon can chunk a Archaludon at +1 defense? I don't think many can. I've seen Stomping Tantrum from Garchomp do more than Close Combat from Sneasler onto an Archaludon. So you have to think maybe Garchomp really is just that guy. But with that, I think that's about it for Regulation MA. I am sad to see it go, because it is a fun format, but I am excited for what the future holds. MB should be really fun. I'm hoping to see some Pokemon like Rillaboom make a comeback, because boys, I've missed Rillaboom. I'm also excited for items to come back, How much different would this format have been with an Assault Vest? Maybe then you're looking at a situation where, like, bulky Assault Vest Garchomp looks really good. So, definitely excited for MB. If you're excited for MB, the new format, coming out in today, as of release date, in like 2 days as of recording. Don't judge me too much for recording this at like the last second, the 11th hour, maybe the 12th hour, really. I'm excited. Let's leave it there. I'm excited for MB. If you're excited for MB, then, subscribe. I'll be trying to release videos somewhat frequently on the format. So, yeah, if you're interested, like, subscribe. I've mentioned it before. Share this video with 2 people, because if they share that video with 2 people and that chain continues, it won't be long before the whole world is infected by my greatness. Thank you, Regulation MA. Thank you for watching. When you see me next, it'll be Regulation MB. So, I hope you're excited.